Honestly, I am so embarrassed to be telling this story, and if you're a makeup artist, don't come for me, please. One time I had a client who was a friend of a family member who reached out to me just a couple of days before the dance asking me if I could do her daughter's homecoming makeup. Let me just point out that at this time I had already graduated high school and I'd been out for a minute. So it had been a while since I had done somebody's prom or homecoming makeup. I had mostly moved on to doing photo shoots, some weddings, or just coming up with crazy looks to do on myself for fun. So when I asked what type of look she wanted, she sent me a look from Pinterest that I had literally seen the exact reference photo for probably like 50 times. I was like, great, this is going to be super easy, nothing to worry about here, so I was like, sure, I'll do it. So on the day of the dance, I go over to my client's house. One of the first things I do whenever I do someone's makeup is make sure that I have a foundation and concealer shade that will match their skin tone. And this girl was abnormally pale. She was absolutely beautiful, and her skin literally reminded me of porcelain, like a porcelain doll. But even my lightest foundation and concealer shades were too dark for her skin. If you've ever done anyone's makeup, even a friend, you know that it is so embarrassing to not be able to match their skin tone. Luckily though, I was used to having to come up with very creative solutions to very sticky situations. Like I said before, I was doing this girl's makeup for her homecoming dance, and homecoming is usually in the fall, and this one was right around Halloween. So I did happen to have some face paint in my makeup kit. And here's where the first really embarrassing thing happened. I didn't know what else to do, so I literally took white face paint and mixed it with my foundation to create a perfect match for her skin tone. It did work, and it looked really good on her skin. So after I used this face paint foundation mixture to put all over her face, I go in and I start doing the eye look. This was also during COVID, so I was wearing a face mask, and as I progressed through her eye look, it started getting really difficult for me to breathe. At first, obviously, I thought it was because of the mask and it was probably just hot in the room that we were in. But after about 20 minutes, it started getting really difficult and I was honestly getting so uncomfortable. I couldn't figure out why. I literally couldn't breathe. Also, I'm not one of those people who can't breathe if they get nervous or anything like that. I have a completely different reaction. I decided not to say anything because, what am I going to say to a 16-year-old girl whose parents aren't home? And quite honestly, I just didn't want to scare her. I finish her entire look, she pays me, everything looks great, and as I'm walking out of her house, I see the 3 cats sitting in her living room. Fun fact about me, I'm extremely allergic to cats. And when I got in my car and took off my mask, my entire face was swollen. That explained why I couldn't breathe, and I was quite honestly embarrassed because that means that my eyes had been swollen the entire time I was standing there talking to her. Everything turned out fine though. I took a Benadryl when I got home and her makeup looked amazing. If you were looking for another reason to be safe with online dating apps, especially during hot girl summer, this is your sign. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. A couple of months ago, I met this guy on a dating app. He wasn't my usual type, but I decided to give him a chance because he looked so sweet in all of his pictures. He even had this one picture of him and a little girl, and it really showed his soft side. And let's be honest, after swiping through pictures for literally hours, it was nice to see a guy that didn't look like a total douche. I swiped right on him, we ended up matching, and after we started talking, we decided to meet up. The only problem was he didn't live where I did, he actually lived about 4 hours away. But he told me that he would be working for a company in my city all summer. The only time he would actually be out of town was over the weekends. This worked out great for me, so we decided to meet up as soon as he came into town. He explained that he would be staying at a friend's apartment, so that's where I ended up meeting him at. And our first little hangout went absolutely great. We watched a movie on the couch, and then he took me to get some food. We did this almost every single day for about 3 weeks. It was pretty clear to me that he wasn't talking to anyone else because if he wasn't at work, I was at the apartment with him. But things started to seem a little bit sketchy whenever he would go back home on the weekends. My initial thought was that he was seeing someone in his hometown and then seeing me when he came to work. Basically, it was like as soon as he got to his hometown, he would take hours to answer. And I completely understand that. But I mean like 5 or 6 hours, while he was posting on a Snapchat story. Since we had been seeing each other pretty regularly for almost a month, I just decided to ask him what was up. That's when he sends me a picture of him with the same little girl from his Tinder profile. I immediately felt like a bitch because I was like, oh, he's just there with his family, of course. So I tried to play it off and I was like, oh, she's so cute, what's her name? He told me her name. Then he asked me if I wanted to see his room. He sends me a Snapchat video of his room, and right next to his bed was the little girl's bed. Then he says, I'm glad you thought she was cute. This is actually my kid. She's 2 years old. He starts telling me all sorts of stories about her growing up, and what it was like to be a single dad while working out of town, how his parents usually watch her during the week and that's why he absolutely has to go back home over the weekend. And since I didn't want to seem like a total bitch, I just played along with it. But I was starting to really freak out because my choices now were break it off with him or become a stepmom. Then he didn't answer my text messages for about another 2 hours. But when he decided to answer it, he was like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. I play it on all the girls that I talk to see how they'll react. Don't worry though, you passed the test. This is actually my niece." After that, I pretty much decided to stop talking to him because that is a really weird trick to play on someone. But moral of the story is stay safe out there during hot girl summer. Sometime around the end of my senior year of high school, me and my friends decided we were going to go get our nails done. We went to a nail salon that we had been to several times before, and after they had finished our nails, they sent us over to the drying station at the back of the nail salon. When we sat down, I noticed that there was a box sitting on top of the drying station and little papers next to it. I asked the nail tech what it was for, and he said it was a raffle to win a free at-home facial for me and 5 friends, plus a chance to win an entire kit of makeup. After picking up and reading one of the forms, I realized that it was for a makeup company that I had bought and used things from before. So my friend and I decided to enter. About a week later, I ended up getting a text message from the lady who started the raffle saying that I had won. She said she wouldn't be able to do the facials unless I had a group of 5 or more people that were willing to participate, and that she would be coming to my house and we would do it in my home. I knew lots of people in my town that worked for and with this company, so I went ahead and set up the appointment. Go to part 2. After the lady had contacted me saying that I had won the facials, we went ahead and set up an appointment. When she came to my house, she set up all of her things and then she had everyone there fill out a short survey about their skin type and the types of problems they had with their skin. Then she decided what type of facial we would all be receiving, and we pretty much all got a different one. Because I had won the raffle, she told me that I would get to keep all of the skincare products she used on me and pick out 3 free makeup products. Everything went well until the next morning. When I woke up, my face was extremely dry and I noticed my skin starting to look a little flaky. I tried to keep moisturizer on my face as much as possible, but over the next week, it just kept getting worse. I contacted the lady and she assured me that she had never seen anything like that happen and it must have been a reaction to something else, but it certainly wasn't her products. However, my skin continued to peel and what started as just a small patch around my nose was now over my entire face. I ended up actually having to go to the doctor's office and they told me that I was 100% allergic to whatever is in that facial. My freshman year of high school, I joined a competitive cheer team. As part of our uniform, we were required to wear our makeup exactly the same way every single time we performed. That included us wearing false eyelashes or using the 3D liquid lash extension mascara. At this point in my life, I had never worn false eyelashes before. I had tried putting them on a few times, but I always failed pretty miserably. And the 3D lash mascara always made a huge mess all over my face. Also, as a freshman in high school, my first homecoming was coming up. This is when I decided that I finally needed to figure out how to put on fake eyelashes. I had practiced putting them on a few times before the dance, but I would leave them on for just a few minutes before I took them off again. On the day of homecoming, I got ready about 4 hours before the dance because I also had to do my friend's makeup and take pictures and go to dinner. The eyelashes went on pretty smoothly and everything was going great. About halfway through the dance, my eyes started getting really itchy and my date just started ignoring me. Like for part 2. As a freshman in high school, my first homecoming was just around the corner. That's when I decided I needed to figure out how to wear fake eyelashes. I had practiced putting them on in the days leading up to the dance. On the day of homecoming, I got ready and did my makeup a few hours before the dance actually started. The eyelashes went on fine and they looked great. But about halfway through the night, my eyes started getting really itchy and my date started ignoring me. At first, I didn't think much of it and I just went and hung out with some friends. But as the night went on, my eyes started getting itchier and they started feeling really heavy. That's when I decided to call my mom to come pick me up. About 30 minutes later, my mom texted me and said she was outside of the dance waiting on me. When I got in my mom's car, the first thing I did was take off my heels and my eyelashes. That's when my mom turned and looked at me and my eyes were almost completely swollen shut. I had been having an allergic reaction to the latex and the eyelash glue for over 5 hours. My freshman year of high school, I was a competitive cheerleader. Part of our uniform included all of us wearing the exact same makeup to every single competition. We also weren't allowed to have any fake nails or nail polish on. But just as competition season had started, my birthday was coming up right around the corner. So I decided that I was going to go get my nails done anyway. When I went to get my nails done, I asked for the lady to make them look as natural as possible so that I wouldn't get in trouble at cheer. When I went to practice the next day, no one seemed to notice that I had gotten my nails done. But with competition season coming up, the coaches told us that we all needed to work on our tumbling. I was a beginner tumbler, so the coaches had me doing back handsprings on the trampoline. After about 20 minutes of practicing, I started getting pretty tired. I ended up messing up one of my back handsprings and landed straight on my face. Not only that, but I looked down to find my hands covered in blood. I had accidentally caught my fake nail on the trampoline and it ripped off both the acrylic and my actual fingernail. I recently had a family friend reach out and ask if I could do her daughter's senior prom makeup. When I was a senior in high school, my boyfriend went to a different school than me. We had been dating for about a year by the time prom came around. We decided since we were both seniors and went to separate schools that we would go to both proms. I picked out 2 entirely different dresses. At this point, I need to backtrack a little bit so that you understand what's about to happen. There was a girl in one of my boyfriend's classes who would just not stop flirting with him. She was constantly Snapchatting and texting him, and I just knew she was out to get my man. For my boyfriend's prom, I decided on wearing a beautiful floor-length red Giovanni gown. Not long after we got to the dance, that girl showed up. And she was also wearing a red dress. I saw no other option but to take action. So I went over to the drink station and got a cup of water. Whenever she started walking towards us, I pretended to fall and threw my cup of water all over the front of her dress. It's safe to say she left my boyfriend alone after that. I met the love of my life on a cruise ship and I've never seen him again. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it belongs to a friend of mine. When I was growing up, we moved around a lot because my dad was in the army. As a way of keeping in touch with old friends, a group of us from where I spent most of my childhood decided to go on a cruise every summer. Last summer on the cruise ship, there was a boy who seemed particularly interested in me. Since I go on these trips with my friends, I usually don't pay any attention to somebody looking to start up a new friendship. But this time, it was different. After talking to this boy at the pool one day, we realized that we actually have a lot in common. I ended up spending the entire week on the cruise getting to know this boy. He even came to my hotel room and watched movies and hung out with me. The connection between us was unlike anything I had ever felt before. On the very last day of the cruise, I went to meet with him to have breakfast. When I got there, he pulled out a ring and asked me to marry him. I said no and laughed it off, but he reassured me that the offer would always stand. We exchanged phone numbers before getting off the cruise, but after that, I never saw him again. What do I do? When I was in college, I was seeing this guy whose parents were pretty well off. And what I mean by that is that they paid for his entire rent, his gas, and his groceries, and they even hired him a maid. After we had been seeing each other for a couple months, I decided to go over to his apartment really early in the morning and surprise him with breakfast. When I got there, there was a car that I didn't recognize, but there was a girly sticker on the back that said that that person also went to our university. When I walked into his apartment, I saw her standing there. I asked who she was and what she was doing in my boyfriend's apartment, and then she held up a bucket of cleaning supplies, and I immediately felt like the biggest bitch ever. But a couple weeks later, I showed up at his apartment again, unannounced, and I saw the maid's car there. Except for this time, it was late afternoon, and I was confused why she would be there because she always comes in the morning. I walked into his apartment, and I didn't see either of them anywhere, but I could hear something coming from the bedroom. I opened the door to my boyfriend's bedroom and saw the maid sitting on top of him, fully undressed, and there he was, participating. We broke up after that.
Việt Nam mới em đừng mà nói không mà bây giờ cũng bị em muốn công thường cũng bị
Rồi. Bị hâm rồi.